Wise people know how to listen. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Have you ever met someone who just makes you feel heard? Someone who makes you want to share your deepest thoughts and feelings without fear of judgment? These people have a special gift. They know how to listen. Not just hearing the words that come out of your mouth, but truly listening with their heart and mind. Today, we are going to explore one of the most important life skills that wise people have learned to master: the art of listening. This is not about staying quiet while someone talks. This is about creating space for others to feel safe, understood, and valued. When you learn to listen like a wise person, your relationships will change. Your understanding of the world will grow. And you will become someone others trust and seek out. Most people think they are good listeners. But if we are honest, most of us are just waiting for our turn to speak. We hear the first few words, and our mind starts racing to form a response. We get distracted by our phone, our thoughts, or the things we need to do later. We judge what the other person is saying before they finish. We interrupt with our own stories or advice. This is not listening. This is just taking turns talking. Real listening is different. It requires patience, focus, and genuine care for the other person. It means putting aside your own agenda and being fully present in the moment. When you listen like this, something magical happens. People open up. They share things they have never told anyone else. They feel less alone in the world. And you learn things that can change how you see life. Think about the last time you had a real conversation with someone. Not small talk about the weather or work, but a conversation where you both shared something meaningful. How did it feel? Chances are, it felt good because someone was truly listening to you. Or maybe you were the one doing the listening, and you discovered something new about that person that made you feel closer to them. The first person I want to tell you about learned this lesson the hard way. They used to be the type of person who always had something to say. In every conversation, they would jump in with their opinion or their own story. They thought they were being helpful and engaging. But over time, they noticed that people stopped coming to them with their problems. Friends would share good news with others first. Family members seemed distant. It took them years to realize that people did not feel heard when they talked to them. This person decided to change. They started paying attention to how they listened. They noticed that when someone was talking, they were already thinking about what to say next. So they made a simple rule for themselves. They would not think about the response until the other person was completely finished talking. This one change made a huge difference. People started seeking them out again. Their relationships became deeper and more meaningful. The second person I want to share had the opposite problem. They were naturally quiet and thought that made them a good listener. But they realized that just being silent is not the same as listening well. Good listening is active. It requires engagement and response. This person learned that sometimes the best way to show you are listening is to ask questions. Not questions that change the subject to something you want to talk about, but questions that help the other person explore their thoughts and feelings more deeply. When someone tells you about a problem they are facing, instead of immediately offering advice, try asking how they feel about it. When someone shares good news, ask them what this means to them. When someone seems upset, ask if they want to talk about it. These simple questions show that you care and want to understand their experience better. Wise people understand that listening is not a passive activity. It requires energy and attention. Think of it like being a detective, but instead of solving a crime, you are trying to understand another human being. You pay attention to their words, but also to what they are not saying. You notice their tone of voice, their body language, their emotions. You pick up on the things that seem most important to them. One of the biggest mistakes people make when listening is trying to fix everything. Someone tells you about a bad day at work, and immediately you start giving advice about what they should do. Someone shares their fears about the future, and you jump in with reassurance and solutions. But often, people do not want you to fix their problems. They just want someone to understand what they are going through. Before offering advice or solutions, ask yourself what this person really needs from you right now. Do they want help solving a problem? Do they need someone to validate their feelings? Are they just looking for a friendly ear? Sometimes the most helpful thing you can do is simply say something like, "That sounds really difficult," or "I can see why you would feel that way." The third person I want to tell you about learned this lesson when they were going through a tough time. They had lost their job and were feeling lost and scared about the future. When they talked to friends and family, everyone had advice. Apply to more jobs. Network more. Consider changing careers. Update your resume. All of this advice was well-meaning, but it made them feel worse. They already knew they needed to do these things. What they needed was someone to acknowledge that this was a hard situation and that their feelings were valid. Finally, one friend just listened. They did not offer advice or try to cheer them up. They just said, "This must be really scary for you." Those simple words made all of the difference. This person felt understood and less alone. They realized that sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is to simply witness their experience without trying to change it. Good listeners also know how to create the right environment for sharing. This means putting away distractions like phones and computers. It means making eye contact and using body language that shows you are engaged. It means finding a quiet place where you can talk without interruption. These might seem like small things, but they send a powerful message that you value what the other person has to say. Think about how you feel when you are trying to tell someone something important and they are looking at their phone or watching TV. It feels like they do not care about what you are saying. Now think about how you feel when someone gives you their complete attention. The difference is enormous. The fourth person learned about creating space for listening when they became a parent. Before having children, they thought parenting was about teaching and guiding. But they discovered that some of the most important moments happened when they just listened to their child. When their child came home from school upset, instead of immediately asking what happened or offering solutions, they learned to just be present and let their child share at their own pace. This created a foundation of trust that lasted through the teenage years and into adulthood. Their child knew they could come to them with any problem without being judged or lectured. They felt safe sharing their thoughts and feelings because they knew they would be heard. Another important aspect of wise listening is learning to be comfortable with silence. Many people feel like they need to fill every pause in conversation with words. But silence can be powerful. It gives people time to think about what they want to say next. It shows that you are not in a hurry to move on to the next topic. It creates space for deeper thoughts and feelings to emerge. The fifth person discovered this when they started practicing meditation. As they became more comfortable with quiet moments, they noticed that their conversations became richer. Instead of rushing to respond, they would pause and really think about what they had heard. This pause often led to better questions and more meaningful responses. Wise listeners also pay attention to patterns. If someone always talks about feeling overwhelmed at work, there might be a deeper issue about balance or career satisfaction. If someone frequently mentions feeling lonely, they might be looking for ways to connect more deeply with others. When you listen for these patterns, you can better understand what someone really needs. But this does not mean you should analyze everything someone says or try to be their therapist. It just means paying attention to the bigger picture of what someone is sharing with you over time. This helps you be more supportive and understanding in your relationship with them. The sixth person learned about listening patterns from their grandmother. Their grandmother had a way of remembering not just what you told her, but how you felt when you told her. Months later, she would check in about things you had mentioned. This made everyone feel cared for and valued. It showed that she was not just listening in the moment, but that she carried what people shared with her. Good listeners also know when not to listen. This might sound strange, but it is important. If someone is sharing something inappropriate, harmful, or crossing your boundaries, it is okay to redirect the conversation or step away. Listening does not mean accepting everything someone says or putting up with behavior that makes you uncomfortable. The seventh person learned this lesson when a friend started sharing very negative thoughts about other people they both knew. At first, they felt like they should listen and be supportive. But they realized that this kind of conversation was not healthy for either of them. They learned to say things like, "I care about you, But I do not feel comfortable talking about other people this way. Can we talk about what is really bothering you? This boundary actually strengthened their friendship because it showed that they cared enough to redirect the conversation in a healthier direction. Listening well also means being willing to hear things that might make you uncomfortable or challenge your views. Wise people understand that everyone has different experiences and perspectives. Instead of getting defensive or argumentative when someone shares a view you disagree with, try to understand why they feel that way. What experiences have shaped their perspective? What values are important to them? This does not mean you have to agree with everything you hear. But it means approaching differences with curiosity rather than judgment. Often, you will find that people have good reasons for their views, even if they are different from yours. And sometimes, listening to different perspectives will help you see things in new ways. The eighth person used to get into arguments all the time because they felt like they had to defend their opinions whenever someone disagreed. But they learned that most people are not looking to debate. They just want to share their thoughts and feel understood. When this person stopped seeing different opinions as attacks and started seeing them as opportunities to learn, their relationships became much more peaceful and interesting. One of the most powerful aspects of good listening is that it can help heal emotional wounds. When people feel truly heard and understood, it can be incredibly healing. Sometimes people have been carrying pain or worry for years, and just having someone listen with compassion can help them feel lighter. The ninth person experienced this healing power of listening when they went through a divorce. They felt ashamed and embarrassed about the failure of their marriage. Many people offered advice or tried to cheer them up, but what helped most was a friend who just listened without judgment. This friend did not try to fix anything or offer solutions. They just made space for all the complicated feelings that come with such a big life change. This experience taught them how powerful it can be to simply witness someone else's pain without trying to take it away. Good listeners also understand that listening is a skill that gets better with practice. Like any other skill, the more you do it, the better you become. Start by paying attention to your current listening habits. Do you interrupt people? Do you get distracted during conversations? Do you judge what people are saying before they finish? Just noticing these patterns is the first step to changing them. Then practice small changes. Put your phone away during conversations. Make more eye contact. Ask more questions about what people are sharing instead of immediately sharing your own experiences. Notice how these small changes affect your conversations and relationships. The 10th person made listening practice a daily habit. Every day, they would have at least one conversation where their only goal was to listen and understand. They would not share their own opinions or stories unless asked. They would focus completely on the other person. Over time, this practice transformed not just their relationships, but their entire approach to life. They became more patient, more understanding, and more wise. Wise listeners also understand that different people communicate in different ways. Some people process their thoughts out loud and need space to talk through their ideas. Others are more internal and need time to think before they share. Some people are direct and say exactly what they mean. Others communicate more indirectly and you need to listen for the underlying message. Learning to recognize these different communication styles helps you listen more effectively. With someone who processes out loud, you might need to be patient as they work through their thoughts. With someone who is more internal, you might need to ask gentle questions to help them open up. With indirect communicators, you might need to listen for what they are not saying as much as what they are saying. The key is to meet people where they are instead of expecting them to communicate the way you do. This flexibility makes you a better listener and helps others feel more comfortable sharing with you. As we come to the end of our exploration of wise listening, remember that this is not just a skill for your personal relationships. Good listening makes you better at work, in your community, and in all areas of life. When you truly listen to customers, co-workers, neighbors, and strangers, you learn things that can help you in ways you never expected. Listening also makes the world a better place. In a time when everyone seems to be shouting their opinions and no one seems to be listening, Being someone who truly hears others is a gift to your community. It creates connection in a disconnected world. It builds understanding across differences. It helps people feel less alone. The wise people throughout history have understood this truth. They knew that you learn more with your ears than with your mouth. They knew that making others feel heard and understood is one of the greatest services you can provide. They knew that in a world full of people desperate to be heard, the person who knows how to listen holds great power and responsibility. So as you go forward from today, I challenge you to become a wiser listener. Start small. In your next conversation, focus completely on the other person. Put away distractions. Ask questions. Be patient with silence. Notice how it feels to give someone your complete attention. Notice how they respond to being truly heard. Remember that listening is not about being passive or weak. It is about being strong enough to put aside your own agenda and focus on someone else. It is about being secure enough to learn from others instead of always trying to prove what you know. It is about being wise enough to understand that every person has something valuable to share if you are willing to listen. The world needs more people who know how to listen. Your relationships need it. Your community needs it. And you need it too, because when you become a better listener, you become a wiser, more connected, and more fulfilled person. The journey to wisdom begins with closing your mouth and opening your ears and heart to the people around you. Thank you for watching today's video. If this message resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more content about living a meaningful life.